I'm Danielle, your host of the Abridged to Motherhood podcast, the place where moms like you learn to thrive, not just survive through pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. I'm a birth and postpartum doula and a mom of two who's been where you are. My first pregnancy was filled with so much excitement, but it was also marked by stress, anxiety, and fear of the unknown. I thought I had everything mapped out, but when postpartum hit, I realized how unprepared I was for the physical, emotional, and mental toll of motherhood. It was overwhelming, lonely, and nothing like I imagined. When I found out I was pregnant again, I knew I needed to approach things differently. I made it my mission to not only prepare for postpartum, but to prioritize myself in the process. That shift changed everything. Now I'm here to help you do the same. Whether you're navigating your first pregnancy, feeling buried under endless advice, or struggling to figure out what you actually need for postpartum, this podcast is your safe space. You'll find practical tips, honest conversations, and expert insights to help you feel informed, supported, and empowered through every stage of motherhood. If you're ready to feel confident, prepared, and truly supported in your motherhood journey, stick around. This is for you. Hey friends, welcome back to the Abridged to Motherhood podcast. I am so excited to bring you another guest episode today. Today I have Jacqueline Kramer with me. She has over 40 years of study and practice in meditation and 20 plus years teaching meditation. Jacqueline Kramer shares tools for developing a home-based spiritual practice rooted in Buddhist wisdom, yet embracing a broader, non-religious approach. Jacqueline offers practical insights for anyone seeking inner peace, balance, and meaning amidst the chaos of daily existence. And let's be very clear, this is so important for mothers because we are all seeking that inner peace, balance, and meaning amidst the chaos of having littles in our homes. So I am so excited for this conversation. I just know so many people need to hear it and that you're going to have so much wisdom to offer us. So thank you so much for coming on, Jacqueline. I'm really excited for our conversation.
My pleasure. I'm so glad to be here.
Okay, so let's start very simple. How do you personally define mindfulness, especially in the context of motherhood? What would you say?
That's an even bigger question than you realize. Mindfulness really covers a lot. And it covers everything from just being aware in the moment to being intimate with what's happening. And it is a foundation of Buddhism to practice. It's a practice. It's not a philosophy. So that's why it doesn't matter what your religion is. You can practice mindfulness regardless of your religion. So it's basically just about being exactly where you are without commentary, without editing, without any kind of wanting it to be different than how it is.
No judgment.
No judgment, yeah.
I know after my first baby, I struggled with postpartum depression and anxiety. So my thoughts were either very future-based or very past-based. So I had to learn a lot of those mindfulness techniques to be in the present. I remember one, for example, my therapist taught me was matching my breath to her breath, or she would tell me to try to count the eyelashes, her eyelashes.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, to stay just very present in that moment.
Yeah, and the key there is like not resisting the difficult moments. We all go through difficult moments. There's nothing to be ashamed of with feeling depressed or angry or whatever is coming up. Those are all just part of being human. And instead of making it worse, making the depression worse by getting down on ourselves for feeling that way, we could go, oh, okay, this is depression. What does it feel like in my body? Being curious. Wow. Okay. Lots of women, lots of people feel depression. I'm amongst them right now. And what does that feel like? And curiosity is a real helpful tool for mindfulness.
I love that. Just staying curious. And that's something that we can take away from our kids too. They're just so naturally curious. And
Mm.
I think we're even learning through mindfulness to model that for them. Something that always comes up whenever I talk to anyone about mindfulness or meditation, a lot of times people will say to me, "Oh, I've tried meditation. I can't do that." Or "I can't get my brain to shut off." Why do you think people feel so resistant to
Oh,
trying it?
I hear that all the time. That is very common. And so, first of all, not to feel bad about feeling that way, that why do I do it is that I can't do it, that I'm like the person who can't do it. It comes from a misconception about what meditation is. So, a lot of people think meditation is stopping thoughts or only thinking good thoughts. When we try to apply control into meditation, it goes haywire because you can't. Your mind naturally thinks thoughts and all kinds of thoughts. So in meditation, we're not stopping thoughts or trying to control thoughts. What we're doing is we're noticing. So you're sitting there and you notice what the in-breath feels like, let's say at your nostril or your abdomen, and what the out breath feels like. And you're watching that. And then all of a sudden you go, oh, I forgot to email so. And so as soon as you notice that you went there, you go, oh, I've gone away from my body into the thought, and now I can return. You don't berate yourself. This is what the mind does. You go in and you go out. And so there needs to be a sense of freedom and not control, but awareness.
That makes so much sense to me. I think I've gotten a lot better at meditation over time and practicing mindfulness, but that was what I really struggled with in the beginning was when I would have a thought that would pull me away. Oh, that's done. I ruined it. Now I'm out of it. I love what you said about it's letting go of control. And that's so much of motherhood is that as well.
It's so hard. It's so much of life in Western culture. I don't think other cultures necessarily have as much problem as we do, but we're really taught to be controlling everything, and like the world's going to fall apart if we don't be on it. And there's a time for that, and there's a time for just being, and that's what's so beautiful is if you have your meditation time, that's a time where you can feel safe in letting go of control. And in letting go of control, you can relax, your body re-regulates itself. And the blood pressure thing, like the body naturally goes towards that kind of a healthy way when we're not trying to control things or just not being present in the moment. But it is a time, meditation's a time for having a room of our own, having a moment of just being exactly everything that we are. And that's a beautiful thing. And it's so important for moms because we're always being there for other people. We're there to help people. We are caregivers. And we need to take time to back off and just be in our own body. Because when we're taking care of other people, until we get really good at this mindfulness thing, there'll be a real tendency to be outside of ourselves. You know what I mean?
So maybe we can clear up some misconceptions too, because I think a lot of people think meditation, we're sitting down, crisscross applesauce. But what can that look like in the midst of everyday life, in the messy when your toddler is tantruming and the dishes are piled up and you can't find that alone time because sometimes it's really hard to find it as a mom.
Absolutely. And that's really possible to do. In my book, Buddha Mom, I write about an incident that happened where it was like a really hard day. I had just gotten my period and my baby was crying and the sink was full of dishes. And I was just feeling overwhelmed. And so I strapped the baby to me and I did the dish one by one. So I took the dish, I brought it, and I brought my mindfulness and awareness to the moment of doing the dishes. I picked up the dish. When we pick up a dish, we don't usually feel the ceramic. We don't feel the dish. But I felt the dish and I lifted it and I felt what it felt like to lift it. And then I got the sponge and I put the soap on. And each movement, I was aware of it because usually we're not aware. But I was aware of each movement and I did it, at whatever pace I needed to do it in order to be present with it. And I just kept doing that. And that was my meditation, was doing the dishes. Doing the dishes is a great time for meditation, or waiting in line at the post office, or all those times where we tend to just go off. We can bring ourselves back, be where do what we're doing and be where we are. And in that particular story, I remember really clearly how by the time the dishes were done, the kitchen was clean, my baby had relaxed, and I was in a completely different state of mind because I had used that to bring myself back to the moment without all the noise, and life just felt completely different to me in that moment. So there's a lot of moments like that. I remember when my brother lived in New York City, he used stepping off the curb to practice mindfulness each time to bring himself back. So you could find a mindfulness object. It can be every time you lift up a toy or something. Just that will be your trigger to bring yourself back to where you are and bring yourself back from all of the thoughts going on that don't need to be there, that are getting in the way of your own freedom.
That was so practical of how you explained the dishes. So just based on what you were saying there, it really made me think about, maybe could you give us some other examples of things that we might be doing with our babies frequently throughout the day? It made me think of like diaper changes or feeding or tummy time, or every time we put the wrap on. Just maybe could you walk us through what another scenario might look like?
Smelling our baby.
It smells so good.
They smell so good. And that's not going to be forever, ladies. Smell your babies. You really revel in that smell, like it's just so sweet. It's so sweet. And maybe making eye contact with the baby might be a moment to like bring yourself back right there with the baby. Gosh, it's a hard question to answer because anything can be anything that is challenging or joyful. It doesn't matter. If the baby's screaming, by the way, I'm 73, so have to go way back to find these things because it's been a long time since I had a baby.
But you recalled that memory of the dishes so clearly because you were so present.
Yes, and that's another thing. You really recall your life. We really want to live our life. It goes by so fast. And being mindful in the moment with what we're doing really allows us to savor our lives and each thing. Even the hard things are going to be there. And pulling away from them, we rob ourselves of what we can be getting from that moment. And when we pull away, it just keeps taunting us. Whereas if we turn around, it's like a bully. A bully will taunt you as long as you're running away from them. But you turn around and face the bully with your awareness, and they don't have the same energy to bounce off of, to taunt you. So that's the same thing with our thoughts and with difficult moments. It's the same kind of energy that we get to bring to the joy as well as the difficult stuff.
When you were talking about the bully, it just made me think of, we're not giving that power over to the thought. There's so many intrusive thoughts that come to a lot of moms, that whether that's they're worried about their baby not breathing at night, or they feel like they're a terrible mom for whatever reason. And like you said, you're recognizing that thought, but then allowing it to be released, that release of control, which is so hard to loosen that grip. But
Yeah, to not let it taunt you. It's hard when you're running away from it, but when you just sit with it and feel the initial sting, and it just dissipates of itself. You don't have to get rid of thoughts. You never get rid of thoughts when you're meditating. You just are aware of them and they disappear. They're like clouds. They don't have any substance. Thoughts don't have any substance. They just disappear. When you're aware and choosing what you're going to focus on, they don't have the power. The thoughts don't have the power to obsess and to torment you when you just let it go and it gets out, just spins out of control.
And approaching it with the curiosity, like you said, oh, why am I feeling that way? Or what is going on in my body at this moment? And recognize, oh, my shoulders are tense. Maybe I should relax. All of those little steps that we can take. And
it gives you the power. It becomes your superpower. The most difficult things we go through become our superpower. I see it all the time, because when you turn around and face it for somebody who comes to you with the same issue, you know that it's not real.
Exactly. I also think this is a great way to parent. As little as 2 when they're starting to tantrum, or 3 is recognizing that emotion that they're feeling, pointing them back to that moment. Like you said, is that something you did in your own parenting, or how did you apply that to parenting?
Yeah, I think that as parents, our children's emotions tend to trigger us. And so if you're mindful, you can notice that. If you're not mindful, you don't notice that. But if you're mindful, you notice that you're being triggered. My father couldn't stand crying, and so it was a very hard thing for him to have a baby who was crying. And a lot of us are in that condition. It's hard to have a baby who's crying. And some of it is just because it hurts our ears or something, but a lot of it is our conditioning. And if we take a moment to just sit while the baby's crying and feel, what does that feel like to me? To be in the room with the baby. I'm not saying to not go to the baby, but sometimes you could be holding the baby and they're crying. And first you do what you can to help them if they need some help. But if the crying continues, you can use it to just love them and not know what the answer is. I think that's a really good Zen lesson for moms. There's a Zen koan that says, not knowing is most intimate. And that is about, we don't know most things. And intimate is like being right with it. So if you're holding your baby and they're crying and you don't know what to do, that's very intimate situation, rather than thinking they're going off on a tangent of what's wrong with me. I'm not a good mother. He's dying. There's something wrong. It gives you the moment, if you're not being reactive, it gives you the moment to really be with your baby and to breathe with them, like you were saying, breathing with the baby. And sometimes with our kids, we can't fix their problems. They need to work it out in their body or whatever, but we can be with them. So a lot of times when a baby's crying, we split from the room in our minds, and we have the choice to notice that we're really uncomfortable and feel that uncomfortableness, and without berating ourselves, and actually just be curious and being with the crying, and just for a moment taking away, I have to fix this, and just being with who the baby is. And things shift when we do that.
Well, where were you 7 years ago? I needed you.
It's so great that you've created this space for mothers to come together and talk about what's going on with them. Because loneliness, at least when I was a young mother, was the biggest issue with young moms.
Yep.
And so to have a podcast like this where other moms could say, oh, I'm not crazy. I also go through that. She goes through that. Let's go through that. It's a great gift.
When you were talking, you mentioned that Zen Cohen. I was so drawn to having you on the podcast. I am a Christian, but I loved that you said you can take this as a non-religious approach. And I tend to see how important blending our Western culture and Eastern culture and sharing some of those things that we could learn to slow down. But something that I've been taught in my faith practice with meditation is we'll take a scripture and then take one word or a short phrase of it, and we'll meditate on that, like what each word means individually and then how it comes together. And so when you shared that phrase, I was wondering, is that something that's a part of the Buddhist practice too of meditation? Do people repeat mantras or phrases? And that's something that when I was doing birth doula, like a lot of times we would pick affirmations or a mantra that moms could say during labor. And I'm thinking, how can that kind of apply then to postpartum as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's called, in the religious sphere, it's called Lecito Divina, studying spiritual texts. And whether it's the Bible or the Torah or sutras, all religions have some version of going to the sacred text and incorporating it into a practice. So that's a beautiful thing. And there are beautiful Bible quotes to use in that way. And yeah, and each one approaches it differently, but it's a practice in a lot of different spiritual systems. We're more alike than we are different in many ways. There are certain differences. It comes down to some same tenets. There's a Catholic monk, very famous Catholic monk who did that. He was the kitchen monk or took care of the kitchen. And he said a phrase, he said, God, make me see you in the pots and pans that I'm cleaning up. That could be the same thing as what we're talking about with mindfulness. It's the same. And also Buddhism, like Christianity, has a lot of different factions, a lot of different. So there's some that do chanting, there's some that don't do chanting, there's some that do meditation, there's some that don't do meditation. There's all, there's Tibetan, there's Zen, there's Vipassana, just like there's Catholicism and evangelical and Unitarian. There's a lot of different practices and a lot of different ways to go. I'm so glad that we're putting the barriers down and supporting each other in practices that can be helpful regardless of what your religion is. And meditation's one of those things that's used. I taught meditation to moms for 20 years, and I had in my groups practicing Catholics, and practicing Jewish people and other religions, and there wasn't any conflict. And if we could keep an open mind, we could see that being aware in the moment doesn't determine what our religion is. We can get closer to God if that's the concept we use when we are in the moment, and or whatever the concept is that the bigger picture. It's a way to align ourselves with it.
Yeah, it's something every mom can benefit from doing. I would love to hear just a little bit more about maybe a meditation technique that's a favorite of yours or that you like to teach in that group, because I also think about you can get a sleep meditation on YouTube and they're saying, and now you're walking through the forest and you're picturing yourself in a certain location. Is that really meditation?
Very good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, just like the word love, it's used in a million different ways. That is, in Buddhism, that's more like a contemplative practice, creating an imaginary, and it can be very useful. It can be, there's definitely a use for that. But when we're talking about mindfulness meditation, we're talking about not making any stories at all, but just being exactly where you are. If you're in line and your body hurts, being there, feeling your body. And it has a different power and a different effect than a visualization, say, or chanting, or anything that is trying to steer your mind in a certain direction. In mindfulness meditation, you're not trying to steer your mind in any direction. You're being exactly where you are and curious about it and letting things settle. There is a meditation that I give to young children that I gave to my granddaughter when she was little. You take a jar and you put water and something viscous like glycerin in it and some glitter. And you put the lid on and you shake it up and you sit there with the child and you watch the glitter fall to the bottom of the jar. That's mindfulness meditation right there. And so it's really useful if the child is stuck in their own emotional state. Every mother knows how you divert. When the child's going through something, you say, "Oh, look at that dog." You divert the child, and whatever was going on, it stops escalating. That's what mindfulness meditation is. Very simple. It's not, there's not a lot, hi kitty. There's not a lot of knowledge you need to start doing it. But it's very simple, but it's also very challenging because when you're sitting still, all the stuff that you're trying to push down rises up. And you got to be ready to meet whatever rises up. And that's the heroine's journey. That's the hero's journey, to meet what is in front of you. As simple as it is, it's not easy to maintain a practice. In fact, my new book, Awakening at Home, is from years of teaching moms how to develop and sustain a meditation practice. And by the way, it doesn't matter how long you meditate. You can meditate for 5 minutes. It's the steadiness, this consistency that matters. But in my book, I talk a lot about different ways to support yourself to sustain the practice. Because, like I say, it's not easy because we want to be doing stuff. It's really hard to take that time for ourselves, to be quiet and to justify it when there's a million things that need to be done. Yeah, so that's the challenge. That's the challenge, is to get our butts down in the chair once a day or whatever we determine we want to do.
Yeah, that's always the challenge. But something like this, like you said, you can practice it while you're doing the dishes. And you're getting those reps in, which is going to allow your mind to do it more easily the next time and the next time and the next time.
And it's like magic too, in a way, because just when we divert our kids' attention from, and they, like magic, really, they pivot and they forget what they were upset about. Same as for us. When we stop obsessing with whatever we're obsessing about and just be there with the dish and stop resisting being where we are, a lot of magic happens in the body and in the mind that is hard to believe that something so simple could have such a big effect.
Absolutely. Is there anything that you would recommend someone do before maybe they start to meditate or they're getting ready to do it for the first time that could maybe help them get in that headspace or get in that mindfulness state?
Yeah, there are a lot of things. It really helps to find something to read. What I do is I center with reading something and then I go in, that it brings me to the chair and then I go. I always use a timer because I don't want to worry about, is it 5 minutes? I don't want to be looking at my clock. I use a timer. And also, you let your family know this is time for mommy. Mommy's going to just go be quiet and in her quiet space right now for a few minutes, and I'll be right back. And my mother meditated. And this is back in the 50s. So she was like pretty ahead of her times. But she used to wake up early in the morning before we got up, and she would meditate. And I'd wake up to this like beautiful stillness in the house. It was relaxing and nourishing as a little kid. So even if our family doesn't do meditation, it affects the whole household. And being givers and caregivers, that's something we can remember, is that we are giving to them, even though we're pulling into the quiet space. This is also a gift for our family.
You've touched on a few of the benefits of mindfulness and meditation. Are there any others that you can think of that you would want to share with moms?
There's so many documented benefits of meditation. John Kabat-Zinn uses meditation at Mass General for people who have chronic pain. So just like with chronic physical pain, also chronic mental pain, it's very useful in calming down the body and the mind. And that presents many gifts. Like we're talking about lower blood pressure, less anxiety. The list is so long. It's like you could Google benefits of meditation, and it's like this big long list, and it's all documented. It's not, and you don't need any special equipment or a special place. It is nice to find a place in your home for you to meditate, and to have that be consistent, because that helps establish in your thinking, I'm sitting here. I know what that means. Your consciousness kind of gets to, oh yeah, okay, this is where we meditate. But yeah, the benefits are so many. Definitely calmness, and you can hear your children and husband better. You can hear your family better. You can, you become less reactive. And yeah, there's just so many. I almost don't know where to start with that, but it's so worth cultivating, and it's simple. And then you can do more and more. You can keep going deeper and deeper. But even just the simplest amount of just taking that moment for yourself and letting everything just be as it is for 5 minutes without having to contain it or control it, you come back to your day with relaxation and things differently after taking 5 minutes. So it's well worth pulling it together to do that. And I have ADD, so it's like I really understand how hard it is to sit still. I am not like the perfect disciplined person, so I understand.
Yeah, I think I know I was diagnosed. I'm just a little bit over on the spectrum of ADD, but it is there. And this was just this past year that I think women hide it, especially the quiet girl in school that gets good grades, but you don't know that she's struggling to pay attention.
I'm in my 70s, and I just discovered it this year. It wasn't a diagnosis at that time, but it's not really a diagnosis. It's a style of being in the world.
Exactly. It's just a different way that our brains work.
And we're all different.
Exactly. I like to say it's part superpower, especially.
Absolutely.
I was a teacher before becoming a doula, and if you can hone anything to be your superpower, and if we just lean into it and embrace it. I wanted to end by asking, where can my guests learn more from you, connect with you? And you shared just a little bit about your book, but say the title again. Tell us where they can purchase it if they're interested.
It's Awakening at Home Practices to Soothe and Bring Awareness into Everyday Life. And it's a really little book. And it's little bite-sized pieces. It's not like it's not a big like reading project or anything like that. You could get it on Amazon. You can search for either Awakening at Home or Jacqueline Kramer. And then another place they can connect with me is I have a website by the same name, Awakening at Home. And I write a monthly blog that I send out. So they can get in touch with me at Awakening at Home, the website, or they can get the book at Amazon.
This was such a great conversation. I learned so much. I know I'm going to be able to implement some more mindful practices throughout my day. And I just am really excited for everyone to hear our conversation. I know it's going to be very beneficial. I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I did. I always love learning new ways that I can support my mental health, and I have something special for you all. I created a brand new free resource. It is called the Postpartum Mental Health Toolkit. It's a free resource guide for new moms that has everything from podcasts to books to ways to find a counselor near you to help support you in your healing journey. I just wanted to create something that was comprehensive, a place that you could come to find a bunch of resources easily and quickly without scouring the internet, that you knew were coming from a trusted source, someone who has used these resources personally or clients have used them. And I tried to add a lot of personal touches in there. There's some advice from my husband, from my mom, and some of my former clients as well. And if you've just been struggling and you're just ready to take that first step in your healing journey, you can go to the show notes or go to abridgetomotherhood.com/toolkit to download that free resource straight into your inbox. And I can't wait to see you all next week. Thanks so much for tuning in to the A Bridge to Motherhood podcast. I'm so glad you were here today. If you loved this episode, I'd be so grateful if you could leave a review for the podcast on whatever platform you're listening on. Share it with a friend or snap a screenshot and tag me on social media. If you decide to leave me a review, go to abridgetomotherhood.com/review. That link is also in the show notes so that I can send you a little gift in the mail. Your support helps other moms to find the podcast, and it truly means the world to me. Remember, your motherhood journey deserves your care and attention. Until next time, keep showing up for yourself, mama, and don't worry, I'm here to help every step of the way. See you soon.